comfortably zoned with the Zigzag Man in Alameda, California, pushing on the doors of life marked pull and fighting the unholy trinity as we go. Big business, organized religion, and government. I am back, and you are comfortably zoned with me, the Zigzag Man, in Alameda, California, for a Thanksgiving week extravaganza. Great show. I've got my buddy, Brother Scott, coming in a few minutes, and he's going to be demystifying the Syrian immigration process that we've been going through in the past week or so. Coincidentally, right around Thanksgiving, how many people forget that we started out needing a place to go, running from oppression, came here, the whole thing about Thanksgiving with the Indians, the Native Americans, you sit down, welcome to my country. Didn't work out all that well for those guys in a lot of respects, but I don't know. The system is messed, and when there's Thanksgiving, what do you think of? Something I've been thinking of for the last 48 years. It's been Alice's Restaurant. Here it is. Arlo Guthrie, Alice's Restaurant, 1967.
This song is called Alice's Restaurant. It's about Alice and the restaurant. But Alice's Restaurant is not the name of the restaurant, that's just the name of the song. That's why I call the song Alice's Restaurant. You can get anything you want at Alice's Restaurant. You can get anything you want at Alice's Restaurant. Walk right in it around the back, just a half a mile from the railroad track. You can get anything you want at Alice's Restaurant. Now it all started 2 Thanksgivings ago, it was on 2 years ago on Thanksgiving, when my friend and I went up to visit Alice at the restaurant. But Alice doesn't live in the restaurant. She lives in the church nearby the restaurant in the bell tower with her husband Ray and watches a dog. And living in the bell tower like that, they got a lot of room downstairs where the pews used to be. And having all that room, seeing as how they took out all the pews, they decided that they didn't have to take out their garbage for a long time. We got up there, we found all the garbage in there. We decided it'd be a friendly gesture for us to take the garbage down to the city dump. So we took the half a ton of garbage, put it in the back of a red VW microbus, took shovels and rakes and implements of destruction, and headed on toward the city dump. Well, we got there, and there's a big sign and a chain across the dump saying closed on Thanksgiving, and we had never heard of a dump closed on Thanksgiving before, and with tears in our eyes, we drove off into the sunset looking for another place to put the garbage. We didn't find one. Till we came to a side road, and off the side of the side road was another 15-foot cliff, and at the bottom of the cliff was another pile of garbage, and we decided that one big pile was better than 2 little piles, and rather than bring that one up, we decided to throw ours down. That's what we did. Drove back to the church, had a Thanksgiving dinner that couldn't be beat, went to sleep and didn't get up until the next morning when we got a phone call from Officer Obie. Said, "Kid, we found your name on an envelope at the bottom of a half a ton of garbage, and wanted to know if you had any information about it, and I said, yes, sir, Officer Obi, cannot tell a lie. I put that envelope under that garbage. After speaking over for about 45 minutes on the telephone, we finally arrived at the truth of the matter and said that we had to go down and pick up the garbage and also had to go down and speak to him at the police officer station. So we got in the red VW microbus with the shovels and rakes and implements of destruction headed on toward the police officer station. Now, friends, there was only one or two things that Obie could have done at the police station, and the first was that he could have given us a medal for being so brave and honest on the telephone, which wasn't very likely, and we didn't expect it. And another thing was that he could have bawled us out and told us never to be seen driving garbage around the vicinity again, which is what we expected. But when we got to the police officer station, there was a third possibility that we hadn't even counted upon, and we were both immediately arrested, handcuffed. And I said, Obie, I don't think I can pick up the garbage with these handcuffs on. He said, shut up, kid. Get in the back of the patrol car, and that's what we did. Sat in the back of the patrol car and drove to the, quote, scene of the crime, unquote. I want to tell you about the town of Stockbridge, Massachusetts. When it happened here, they got 3 stop signs, 2 police officers and 1 police car. But when we got to the scene of the crime, there was 5 police officers and 3 police cars, seeing the biggest crime of the last 50 years, and everybody wanted to get in a newspaper story about it. And they was using up all kinds of cop equipment that they had hanging around the police officer station. They were taking plaster, tire tracks, footprints, dog smell prints, and they took 27 8x10 colored glossy photographs with circles and arrows and a paragraph on the back of each one explaining what each one was to be used as evidence against them. Took pictures of the approach, the getaway, the northwest corner and southwest corner, and that's not to mention the aerial photography. After the ordeal, we went back to the jail. Obie said he was going to put us in the cell. Said, kid, I'm going to put you in the cell. I want your wallet and your belt. And I said, Obie, I can understand you want my wallet so I don't have any money to spend in the cell, but what do you want my belt for? And it said, kid, we don't want any hanging. I said, Obie, did you think I was going to hang myself for littering? Obie said he was making sure, and friends Obie was, because he took out the toilet seat so I couldn't give myself over the head and drown. And he took out the toilet paper so I couldn't bend the bars, roll the toilet paper out the window, slide down the roll, and have an escape. Obie was making sure, and it was about 4 or 5 hours later that Alice, remember Alice? It's a song about Alice. Alice came by with a few nasty words to Obie on the side, bailed us out of jail. We went back to the church, had another Thanksgiving dinner that couldn't be beat, and didn't get up until the next morning when we all had to go to court. We walked in, sat down. Obie came in with a 27 8x10 colored glossy pictures with the circles and arrows and a paragraph on the back each one. Sat down. Man came in, said, all rise. We all stood up, and Obie stood up with the 27 8x10 colored glossy pictures, and the judge walked in, sat down with the CNI dog, and he sat down. We sat down. Obie looked at the CNI dog. Then the 27 8x10 colored glossy pictures with the circles and arrows and a paragraph on the back of each one, and looked at the CNI dog. 27 8x10 colored glossy pictures with the circles and arrows and a paragraph on the back of each one, and began to cry because Obie came to the realization that it was a typical case of American blind justice and there wasn't nothing he could do about it. And the judge wasn't going to look at the 27 8x10 colored glossy pictures with the circles and arrows and a paragraph on the back of each one explaining what each one was to be used as evidence against us. And we was fined $50 and had to pick up the garbage in the snow, but that's not what I came to tell you about. Came to talk about the draft. We've got a building down New York City. It's called Whitehall Street, where you walk in and you get injected, inspected, detected, infected, neglected, and selected. have my physical examination one day, and I walked in and sat down. Got good and drunk the night before, so I looked and felt my best when I went in that morning. Because I wanted to look like the all-American kid from New York City. Man, I wanted to feel like I wanted to be the all-American kid from New York, and I walked in, sat down, I was hung down, brung down, hung up, and all kinds of mean, nasty, ugly things. And I walked in, I sat down, they gave me a piece of paper, said, kid, see the psychiatrist, room 604. And I went up there, I said, shrink, I want to kill. And I want to kill. I want to see blood, gore, and guts, and veins in my teeth. Eat dead, burnt bodies. I mean, kill. And I started jumping up and down, yelling, kill. And it started jumping up and down with me, and we was both jumping up and down, yelling, kill. And the sergeant came over, pinned the medal on me, set me down the hall, said, you're our boy. And you feel too good about it. Proceeded on down the hall, getting more injections, inspections, detections, neglections, and all kinds of stuff that they were doing to me at the thing there. And I was there for 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours. I was there for a long time, going through all kinds of mean, nasty, ugly things, and I was just having a tough time there. And they was inspecting, injecting every single part of me, and they wasn't leaving no part untouched. Proceeded through, and when I finally came to see the very last man, I walked in, sat down after a whole big thing there, and I walked up and said, what do you want? He said, kid, we only got one question. Have you ever been arrested? And I proceeded to tell him the story of Alice's Restaurant massacre with full orchestration, and five-part harmony and stuff like that, and then all the phenomena stopped right there and said, kid, did you ever go to court? I proceeded to tell him the story of the 27 8x10 colored glossy pictures with the circles and arrows and a paragraph on the back of each one. It stopped me right there and said, kid, I want you to go over and sit down on that bench that says Group W. Now, kid. And I walked over to the bench there, and there's Group W, where they put you if you may not be moral enough to join the Army after committing your special crime. And there was all kinds of mean, nasty, ugly-looking people on the bench there. Mother rapers, father stabbers, father rapers sitting right there on the bench next to me, and it was mean and nasty and ugly and horrible and crime-fighting guys were sitting there on the bench. And the meanest, ugliest, nastiest one, the meanest father raper of them all, was coming over to me, and he was mean and ugly and nasty and horrible and all kinds of things. And he sat down next to me and said, kid, what'd you get? I said, I didn't get nothing. I had to pay $50 and pick up the garbage. I said, what were you arrested for, kid? And I said, littering. And they all moved away from me on the bench there to carry eyeball and all kinds of mean, nasty things till I said, and creating a nuisance. And they all came back, shook time, on the bench talking about crime, mother stabbing, father rape, and all kinds of groovy things that we were talking about on the bench. And everything was fine. We were smoking cigarettes and all kinds of things until the sergeant came over. Had some paper in his hand, held it up, said, kid, this piece of paper's got 47 words, 37 sentences, 58 words. We want to know details of the crime, and that kind of thing. Got to say 10 about the crime, want to know the rest of the officer's name, and that kind of thing. You got to stand and talk for 45 minutes, and nobody understood a word that he said. But we had fun filling out the forms and playing with the pencils on the bench there. I filled out the massacre with the 4-part harmony and wrote it down there just like it was, and everything was fine, and I put down a pencil and I turned over the piece of paper, and there on the other side, in the middle of the other side, away from everything else on the other side, in parentheses, capital letters, quotated, read the following words. Kid, you rehabilitated yourself. I went over to the sergeant and said, Sergeant, you got a lot of damn gall to ask me if I've rehabilitated myself. I mean, I'm sitting here on the bench. I'm sitting here on the Group W bench. Because you want to know if I'm moral enough to join the army, burn women, kids' houses, and villages after being a litter bug. He looked at me and said, Kid, you don't like your kind. And we're going to send your fingerprints off to Washington, and friends, somewhere in Washington, enshrined in some little folder, is a study in black and white of my fingerprints. And the only reason I'm singing you the song now is because you may know somebody in a similar situation. Or you may be in a similar situation, and if you're in a situation like that, there's only one thing you can do. Is walk into the shrink wherever you are. Just walk in, say shrink. You can get anything you want at Alice's restaurant and walk out. You know, if just one person does it, then they think he's really sick and they won't take him. And if two people do it in harmony, they think they're both faggots and they won't take either of them. And if three people do it, can you imagine three people walking in, singing a bar, Alice's restaurant, and walking out? They may think it's an organization. And can you imagine 50 people a day? I said 50 people a day walking in, singing a bar, Alice's restaurant, and walking out. And friends, they may think it's a movement. And that's what it is. The Alice's Restaurant End-Time Master Creed movement. And all you gotta do to join is to sing it the next time it comes around on the guitar. With feeling. So we'll wait till it comes around on the guitar here. Sing it when it does. Here it comes. You can get anything you want at Alice's restaurant. You can get anything you want at Alice's restaurant. Walk right in it around the back. Just a half a mile from the railroad track, and you can get anything you want at Alice's restaurant. That was horrible. If you want to end warrant stuff, you got to sing loud. I've been singing the song now for 25 minutes. I could sing it for another 25 minutes. I'm not proud. Or tired. So we'll wait till it comes around again. This time with 4-part harmony and feeling. We're just waiting for it to come around. That's what we're doing.
Except in Alice. You can't get Alice, but I'm blessed. 420 Studios, just guess who walked in? It's Tallie Olson. One of the 5 reasons I am so grateful on this Thanksgiving week. How you doing, Tallie?
I'm doing good. How are you, Ralph?
Oh, good. It's beautiful here in Northern California, and I'd like to tell you how grateful I am to have you in my life. That's all. It's not going to be a big show or anything.
I'm blushing.
Oh, good. You have a good day. I'm giving you and the audience some good stuff because they're number 2 that I'm grateful. Actually, there's no particular order to any of this. I'm grateful to 5 different things. We'll go over them over the show. One of them is this audience. So I want to give you some good stuff on Thanksgiving. And who says it best about life, about everything that we're living through? Who would have said it best? The late George Carlin. I miss him so much, and I think about him, and I just wanted to share this is the best George Carlin 3 minutes ever. This is it. It's called The American Dream. Here it is. So what happened? The American Dream doesn't have sound? Oh, wow. I don't know. Let's go on then. While we get American Dream sound back, a little technical difficulty. I've been outsourcing the technical part of this show for a long time. So I got some guy in bumfuck Egypt doing all the shit. He can't get the sound up. Let's try. We played a little Arlo Guthrie. Let's try an Arlo Guthrie that people don't remember Arlo from and see if that works. Arlo Guthrie, the city of New Orleans. We'll get George up for you in a second.
Riding on the city of New Orleans, Illinois Central, Monday morning rail. 15 cars and 15 restless riders, 3 conductors, 25 sacks of mail. All along the southbound Odyssey, the train pulled out of Kansas City.
That was all Guthrie. Whoa. So you got your fill of him, didn't you? That was good. While he played, I came up with something which is even better than what I promised. I promised George Carlin's best 3 minutes. Here's the complete American dream. George Carlin, ladies and gentlemen. Best I can give you for Thanksgiving.
The country is full of nitwits and assholes. You ever notice that? Oh, my goodness, yes. Oh, my goodness, right. Yes. Nitwits, assholes, fuck-ups, scumbags, jerk-offs, and dipshits. And they all vote. They all vote, yeah. In fact, sometimes you get the impression they're the only ones who vote. You can usually tell who's been doing the voting by looking at the fucking election returns. Man, it sure ain't me out there wasting my time with a meaningless activity like that. You know those people on the Jerry Springer show? Those are the average Americans. Oh, yeah, believe me, below average can't get on the show. Can't get on. Below average is sitting home watching that shit on TV. Getting ready to go out and vote. Filling out their sample ballot. People are fucking dumb. You can say what you want about this country, and I love this place. I love the freedoms we used to have. I love it. I love that. I love it when it didn't take a fucking catastrophe to get us to care for one another. I love the fact that we're on camera all the time from all angles. But you know what? You can say what you want about America. And I say I love this place. I wouldn't have it any other way. Wouldn't live it any other time in history and any other place. But say what you want about America. Land of the free, home of the brave. We got some dumb-ass motherfuckers floating around this country. Dumb-ass motherfuckers, you know? Yeah. Now, obviously, that doesn't include this audience. I understand that. You seem intelligent and perceptive, but the rest of them, holy jumping fucking shitballs. Dumber than a second coat of paint. And this ain't just ranting and raving. This ain't just blowing off steam. I got a little evidence to support my claim. It just seems to me, that only a really low IQ population could have taken this beautiful continent, this magnificent American landscape that we inherited. Well, actually, we stole it from the Mexicans and the Indians, but hey, it was nice when we stole it. It looked pretty good. It was pristine. Paradise. Have you seen it lately? Have you taken a good look at it lately? It's fucking embarrassing. Only a nation of unenlightened half-wits could have taken this beautiful place and turned it into what it is today, a shopping mall. A big fucking shopping mall. You know that? That's all you got. That's all you've got here, folks. Mile after mile of mall after mall. Many, many malls. Major malls and mini malls. They put the mini malls in between the major malls. And in between the mini malls, they put the mini marts. And in between the mini marts, you got the car lots, gas stations, muffler shops, laundromats, cheap hotels, fast food joints, strip clubs, and dirty bookstores. America the Beautiful, one big transcontinental commercial cesspool. And how do the people feel about all this? How do the people feel about living in a coast-to-coast shopping mall? Well, they think it's just fucking dandy. They think it is cool as can be, because Americans love the mall. They love the mall. That's where they get to satisfy their two most prominent addictions at the same time, shopping and eating. Millions of semi-conscious Americans, day after day, shuffling through the malls, shopping and eating, especially eating. Americans love to eat. They are fatally attracted to the slow death of fast food. Hot dogs, corn dogs, triple bacon cheeseburgers, deep fried butter dipped in pork fat and cheese whiz, mayonnaise, soaked barbecue, mozzarella, patty melts. Americans will eat anything. If you were selling sauteed raccoons' assholes on a stick, Americans would buy them and eat them, especially if you dip them in butter and put a little salsa on them. This country is big time, pig time. Forget the bald eagles. You know what the national emblem of this country ought to be? A big bowl of macaroni and cheese. A big bowl, because everything in this country is king size. King size, extra large, and super jumbo, especially the fucking people. Have you seen some of the people in this country? Have you taken a good look at some of these big, fat motherfuckers walking around? Big, fat motherfuckers? Oh, my God. huge piles of redundant protoplasm lumbering through the malls like a fleet of interstate buses. The people in this country are immense, massive bellies, monstrous thighs, and big, fat fucking asses. And if you stand there for a minute and you look at one of them, you begin to wonder, how does this woman take a shit? How does she shit? And even more frightening, how does she wipe her ass? Can she even locate her asshole? She must require assistance. Are paramedics trained in this field? I'm standing right next to her, of course, with a plate full of nachos and a mouthful of pie is her clueless fucking husband, Joe Sixpack. With his monstrous swollen beer belly hanging dangerously out over his belt buckle, this guy ain't seen his dick since the Nixon administration. And if you stand there and you look at the two of them, you begin to wonder to yourself, do these people fuck? Is this man actually capable of fucking this woman? It doesn't seem structurally possible that people could achieve penetration. Maybe they're in that Cirque du Soleil or something. Telling you, the people in this country, every one of them is 50 pounds overweight. They are gargantuan. And in the summertime, God help us, in the summertime, they all want to wear short pants. Jesus, Lord, protector of all that is good and holy, deliver me from fat people in short pants. They all got short pants, big bellies, fat thighs, and dumb kids. Short pants, big bellies, fat thighs, and dumb kids. Every one of them's got two dumb-ass kids with them. And the whole family is wearing T-shirts, and every one of them's got the same T-shirt. I'm with stupid. Apparently in this country, the stupids are an extended family. And besides wearing them T-shirts, every one of the families got on a backpack. They got a backpack strapped to their back so they can carry around lots of stupid shit. And the reason they got to carry their stupid shit strapped to their backs is because their hands must remain free at all times to hold food. And to get that food up to the mouth where it gets shoveled in with all the rest of the disgusting shit they ate that day. And another reason for the backpacks is these people are going to buy even more stupid shit. They ain't got enough stupid shit at home. They just had a stupid shit sale. They're going to buy more. They're going to go out in the parking lot and stuff this stuff into the big, fat, ugly, oversized SUV that's got plenty of room in it for stupid shit and lots of room left over for these big, fat, ugly motherfuckers to get them home. Stopping, of course, for jelly roll and fried dough. These people are efficient, professional, compulsive consumers. They think of that as their national pride. It's their civic duty. Consumption. It's the new national pastime. Fuck baseball. It's consumption. The only true, lasting American value that's left, buying things. Buying things. People spending money they don't have on things they don't need. Money they don't have on things they don't need. So they can max out their credit cards and spend the rest of their lives paying 18% interest on something that costs $12.50. And they didn't like it when they got it home anyway. Not too bright, folks. Not too fucking bright. But if you talk to one of them about this, if you isolate one of them, you sit them down rationally, and you talk to them about the low IQs and the dumb behavior and the bad decisions, right away they start talking about education. That's the big answer to everything. Education. We need more money for education. We need more books, more teachers, more classrooms, more schools. We need more testing for the kids. You say to them, well, we've tried all of that, and the kids still can't pass the test. So don't you worry about that. We're going to lower the passing grades. And that's what they do in a lot of these schools now. They lower the passing grades so more kids can pass. More kids pass, the school looks good, everybody's happy, the IQ of the country slips another 2 or 3 points, and pretty soon all you'll need to get into college is a fucking pencil. Got a pencil? Get the fuck in there. It's physics. Then everyone wonders why 17 other countries graduate more scientists than we do. Education. Politicians know that word. They use it on you. Politicians have traditionally hidden behind 3 things: the flag, the Bible, and children. No child left behind. No child left behind. Oh, really? Well, it wasn't long ago you were talking about giving kids a head start. Head start? Left behind? Someone's losing fucking ground here. But there's a reason. There's a reason. There's a reason for this. There's a reason education sucks, and it's the same reason that it will never, ever, ever be fixed. It's never going to get any better. Don't look for it. Be happy with what you got. because the owners of this country don't want that. I'm talking about the real owners now. The big, the wealthy, the real owners, the big wealthy business interests that control things and make all the important decisions. Forget the politicians. They're irrelevant. The politicians are put there to give you the idea that you have freedom of choice. You don't. You have no choice. You have owners. They own you. They own everything. They own all the important land. They own and control the corporations. They've long since bought and paid for the Senate, the Congress, the state houses, the city halls. They got the judges in their back pocket, and they own all the big media news, all the big media companies. So they control just about all of the news and information you get to hear. They got you by the balls. They spend billions of dollars every year lobbying to get what they want. Well, we know what they want. They want more for themselves and less for everybody else. But I'll tell you what they don't want. They don't want a population of citizens capable of critical thinking. They don't want well-informed, well-educated people capable of critical thinking. They're not interested in that. That doesn't help them. That's against their interest. That's right. You know something? They don't want people who are smart enough to sit around the kitchen table and figure out how badly they're getting fucked by a system that threw them overboard 30 fucking years ago. They don't want that. You know what they want? They want obedient workers. Obedient workers. People who are just smart enough to run the machines and do the paperwork and just dumb enough to passively accept all these increasingly shittier jobs with the lower pay, the longer hours, the reduced benefits, the end of overtime, and the vanishing pension that disappears the minute you go to collect it. And now they're coming for your Social Security money. They want your fucking retirement money. They want it back so they can give it to their criminal friends on Wall Street. And you know something? They'll get it. They'll get it all from you sooner or later because they own this fucking place. It's a big club, and you ain't in it. You and I are not in the big club. By the way, it's the same big club they use to beat you over the head with all day long when they tell you what to believe. All day long, beating you over the head in their media, telling you what to believe, what to think, and what to buy. The table is tilted, folks. The game is rigged, and nobody seems to notice. Nobody seems to care. Good, honest, hard-working people, white collar, blue collar, doesn't matter what color shirt you have on. Good, honest, hard-working people continue. These are people of modest means. Continue to elect these rich cocksuckers who don't give a fuck about them. They don't give a fuck about you. They don't give a fuck about you. They don't care about you at all. At all. At all. Yeah. You know? And nobody seems to notice, nobody seems to care. That's what the owners count on, the fact that Americans will probably remain willfully ignorant of the big red, white, and blue dick that's being jammed up their assholes every day. Because the owners of this country know the truth. It's called the American dream, because you have to be asleep to believe it.
Whoa. That was George Carlin. So Brother Scott is entering the studio. I am back, and you are comfortably zoned with me, the Zigzag Man, in Alameda, California, at the 420 Studios, down by the lagoon, as Archie Bunker would say. And it's Thanksgiving week. I'm here with Brother Scott, and we are talking about the spirit of America, the spirit of Thanksgiving, and what it's meant to this country in the past and what it is now, given the Syrian refugee issue, and should they be welcome as Native Americans welcomed us long, long time ago. Brother Scott, a few thoughts from you.
Thanks, Ralph, and happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you.
Looking forward to a mellow week. We got a lot to be thankful for. So one thing you and I have been discussing was the impact of the issue of Syrian refugees flooding into Europe and the way it's changing the shape of politics and the discussion, both there and across the pond here and internationally. And it seems that, to oversimplify just a bit, there are two main camps. One camp welcomes the refugees, understands why they would be fleeing, the situation they're fleeing, and sympathizes with them in general, and does not allow any trepidation or anxiety that might be felt by potential threats of terrorism emanating from the refugee ranks doesn't allow any of that anxiety to prevent a warm and welcoming sentiment from being expressed. And on the other side is a sentiment, probably equally widespread or nearly so, that is more concerned, and the concerns are front and center. And with the type of savagery that we've witnessed on television and in the media emanating from the Islamic State movement in Syria and Iraq, the beheadings, the mass killings, and so on, it's not unreasonable to be concerned that some of those bad guys could slip into the stream and find their way to Paris, as evidently one of them, or perhaps more, have done. That remains to be seen. But at least one of those terrorists in Paris is suspected of having come to that part of the country, along with Syrian refugees. Again, that remains to be seen. But nonetheless, the concern is real. The concern is probably valid, and nobody wants to see anything like that happen. So if that anxiety and that concern takes precedence and occupies top position in somebody's thinking, then sympathy, compassion, solidarity, those other sentiments have to do battle with it. And one side or the other comes out on top. I happen to think that the threat, although real, is exaggerated. And I'm just going to be real brief. There's historical precedent that we can look to in this country especially to see how our fears have been blown out of proportion in the past and resulted in all kinds of injustice on a pretty big scale. Because on the one hand, we're a generous people and we really do accept others and their ways, generally speaking. It hasn't always been so, and it's not so with everyone. We can go all the way back to one of the founding fathers, one of the guys I admire the most from that era, Benjamin Franklin, a revolutionary in his 80s, and that's something to be. And he was not only opposed to the British crown and feudal monarchies in general, he didn't have very many warm sentiments for German immigrants to the New World. And he wrote about it, and it wasn't kind. And got to be frank, Ben, I love you, but you had the Germans wrong. They occupied the Ohio Valley. They settled towns like Cincinnati. They brought their customs and language with them. You and others were concerned that they would never become anglicized, that they would, in fact, Germanize the area. Didn't come to pass. Few people know it, but I've heard, and correct me if I'm wrong, that most Americans, or I should say more Americans, can trace their ethnic heritage back to Germany than to any other country in the world, at least currently. That could change. But for a long time, more people in the United States could say they had one or more ancestors who originated in Germany, even more than England. Now, that fear of German wildly exaggerated by somebody we all admire, who is in almost every other way very rational, and a champion of reason and the Enlightenment, and a foe of darkness and superstition. Fast forward just a little bit, and you had waves of Irish come to this country and wash ashore from the Irish potato famine. And they didn't just come here. They went to Mexico, too. In fact, Irish Americans in the Mexican-American War found themselves fighting Irish Mexicans on the other side. And they had both fled Ireland. There was a widespread prejudice against the Irish. For many decades, the signs outside the doors of many establishments that were looking for employees would have a sign that said, Irish need not apply. You weren't going to be considered for work if you were Irish. And many people thought that the Irish were uber Catholic and replicated too frequently and too often out of wedlock, and were infused, drunken wastrels who neglected their wives and children. All right, that's a stereotype. It's led to some long-standing jokes, which still find currency. I have to admit, I've told a few myself, and I exempt myself because of my own Irish heritage. But they are not kind.
Give me one, a soft one.
Later with that. And point is, the fears of the Irish were wildly exaggerated and misplaced. And following that came Asian immigrants when the railroads had to be built in the west of the United States. Asians, especially from China, were mysterious and exotic, and a lot of people thought they were mostly strung out on opium and dangerous in all kinds of mysterious ways. But that didn't prevent them from being super exploited as a low-cost pool of labor when it came time to build some railroads out west. And you can see the remnants of that population today along the old Route 66 and along the towns that line the old railroad right-of-ways, because a lot of the motel industry and the restaurant industry to this day is still served by people of Asian extraction, and they can trace their roots all the way back to the building of the railroads when that job was assigned to them, when they weren't being asked to carry dynamite into tunnels and blow up tunnels and hopefully not themselves. Point is, the fears of the Chinese and the Asians and the fierce and racist anti-Asian immigration laws were way out of place and over the top and nothing to be proud of.
And the Italians?
And then comes the Italians, turn of the century, 1900s. Reputed to be associated with organized crime everywhere they went, even though a vast majority of Italian immigrants disliked organized crime and the mafia. And they had a long, hard road to hoe to live that down. Today, nobody thinks about it that much, except as a jocular aside. And successive waves have come. Mexican immigrants and Latin American immigrants have come. They were subjected to stereotypes. They were rumored to be dangerous in ways that didn't actually reflect reality. They reflected the stereotype. But the fears were misplaced and greatly exaggerated. So, don't want to belabor it anymore. The Syrians and others fleeing with them are fleeing conditions of carnage. They, more than anyone else right now, I think, live in a hell on earth. Bombs raining out of the sky, artillery shells landing on them, gunfire everywhere, fighting everywhere, multiple sides. You can't tell the players without a scorecard, and the players get traded from team to team periodically. Your friend today could be your enemy tomorrow. It's insanity, seemingly. There is a method to the madness, but who can blame a Syrian or an Afghan or a Libyan from saying, I'm out of Dodge. I'm taking my wife, my husband, my family, and we're getting out of here because this is too much. They didn't bring it on themselves. They've had their historical disputes, and they've usually settled them in their own ways. But of late, it is within the last century or more, larger forces have been at work that greatly exacerbated domestic tension and turmoil and brought hell to them, a hell like they've never known before. And that's why they're fleeing. And they're fleeing from ISIS. So overwhelmingly, the stream is going to be anti-ISIS. It's going to be full of a diverse population. It's unfair to paint them all with one brush. And they're going to already come with gratitude and in fear of their lives. Be glad to find a safe haven. We should welcome them, as we should have welcomed the previous waves of immigrants that were also miscast and stereotyped. That's my take on it.
Well, you're nice enough not to include the Jews in that, in your dissertation, they too were not welcome with open arms.
And I neglected that, and I shouldn't have. They were turned aside on the eve of World War II for anti-Semitic reasons.
Anne Frank's ship on the shores of Miami was turned back by Joseph Kennedy, basically the ambassador to England, and a lot of people perished. Half the people on that ship ended up perishing. So there has been no group of folks welcome into this. But let's agree that we have a new battlefield, and that's terrorism. And terrorism strikes. None of these other groups came over here, afraid of them because they may take jobs away, but they weren't afraid of them because of things like the Boston Marathon. So I found on Facebook, it's been an incredible amount of liberal people, ordinarily liberal folks, who, because of the fear of terrorism, just have sided with the folks that think that the Syrians shouldn't be welcome here. And
the terror got to them.
The terror got to them. So can you explain how that happens and what we can do to put a little good common sense into people's heads? I mean, if you think about the number of people that have been killed in this country by terrorists compared to the number of infants killed, toddlers killed by guns, let alone gangland killings and what have you, you might find that the numbers aren't as terrorizing after all.
Good point. We kill ourselves in various ways. Terrorism, statistically speaking, is not likely to cause you a casualty to you or anyone you know directly. But that's not going to help when we confront a widow or a widower or an orphan who's been killed by somebody who blew themselves up out of desperation. What are you going to say to that person is what some people would ask. And what can you say? There's nothing you can say that makes it right. You just have to speak your heart. But the thing is this, looking back on the previous waves of immigration, there were criminal elements in each one. Would we now look back in hindsight and say we should have stemmed that flow? We never should have allowed in the Germans, the Irish, the Mexicans, the Asians, the Italians, the Jews. We shouldn't let them in because some of them were bad? I don't think anybody would say that. It doesn't mean you wouldn't grieve for those people who were victims of criminal elements that snuck into the country or turned bad after they got here. But it doesn't. You can't justify denying an entire population refuge because some of them could be, let's be frank, inevitably will be criminals. This State Department...
Bernie Madoff was a criminal.
Well,
if you want to look back to a family of refugees coming in, and I'm saying this, I'm Jewish, so it's every nationality
has criminal elements.
Right.
Let me say this also while we're on the topic of criminal elements in refugees. The Marielitos, have you heard of those?
No.
They fled Cuba. They were part of a political gamesmanship between Fidel Castro and Washington, D.C. Washington was complaining that they had too many political prisoners in Cuba, and it was a human rights nightmare. And Castro said, we have criminals in our prisons. We don't have political prisoners. We have criminals. You want them? You got them. And he opened up the port of Mariel and allowed Americans, Cuban Americans, and others to come with their little boats and pick these people up and take them.
I have heard of it. I just didn't recognize the name. Yeah, they came to Miami.
Mostly to Miami, and they were immediately put in penitentiaries or holding cells with barbed wire and a prison-like setting because everybody knew that, in fact, a large percentage, I don't know the number, but it was large, of the Marielitos, those who fled Cuba from the port of Mariel, were in fact criminals released from prison after being convicted of criminal offenses. So we accepted them. And they were perhaps a majority of criminals, a large percentage of criminals.
Right.
So, there's a precedent
we put them in
set
jail.
for it.
We accepted them and put them behind barbed wire fences.
And that's how they were vetted. Eventually, some were released because they were minor offenders, nonviolent minor offenders. And I don't know really what happened to the ones that were hardcore criminals. They might have been transferred straight into a penitentiary. I don't know.
Okay. Well, the point may be moot because Congress voted to turn it down.
With a large Democratic Party support.
Absolutely. Now, that really shocked me.
Why?
Because I'm Pollyanna. I continue to believe that there's a real big difference between being a Democrat and being a Republican, and I get to be surprised every now and again when a guy like Obama makes a deal with big business to keep Monsanto, in particular, to keep our food poisoned and
you're talking about GMOs?
GMOs, poison with GMOs. This is craziness. That brings us back to Bernie, a good old-fashioned FDR socialist Democrat. I think he's not. I think he's losing ground. But besides the point, Trump is so outrageous. The GOP is so split that whoever wins from the Democratic side is going to be president again. There's no question in my mind about that. It does come down to, is Hillary a part of that Republican business as usual political machine, either side, that is going on forever? And is Bernie can Bernie make a true difference? What do you say? I'm just curious about what you say.
The ultimate question is, can Bernie make a true difference?
Well, can you see him, if he were elected, can you see the political system as it is today changing, and can you see a socialist spirit coming back into this country that we really need? Let's face it, we need to take care of the people, and we need to redistribute the wealth in some way. And do you think it's feasible?
If that's your aim, Bernie's not your guy.
Why do you say that?
I don't think he has plans for that. I think he's got a track record. Follow his trajectory since he entered Congress. He's always caucused with the Democrats, and he's articulate and perhaps the most intelligent on at least one level of all the candidates, and he says a lot of things that sound pretty good, but that's walking the walk. That's talking the talk. I haven't seen him walk the walk.
Oh, okay.
In fact, a lot of what he says I don't even necessarily agree with. But what does he say about the refugees?
I don't know in particular what he says about the refugees.
I would expect him to say take.
Yes, I don't know how he voted because a lot of Democrats switched over at the last minute.
I don't think he would be one.
Yeah.
He might distinguish himself on that issue from those Democrats who voted to bar them from entering the country. But I
really see him as a different, as a politician with a different agenda. I mean, he's 74 years old, for crying out loud. I think his ego's out of it.
Well, I give everybody the credit for being sincere about what they're sincere about, and whatever it is he's sincere about, he's sincere about it. I don't mean to say he's up there faking it. I don't mean that.
Okay, can he bring it? Can he bring the people back to being represented by human beings rather than millionaires? We got like 123 congressmen that are millionaires. Who do these people represent? When people vote for these people, do they think they'll be represented? What's going on in the mind of a voter? I mean, it's craziness. The millionaires are running the working people. And George Carlin says it best. They want to keep us all working. They want to keep us all producing. Said it best. Rest in peace, George.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot in what you said. Too much to respond to right here, but I would just sum it up this way. Bernie's not about replacing the system. Bernie's about saving the system from its own excesses, and that, to me, is is a futile endeavor.
Okay, let's leave it at that. That's a good way of putting it. I have no way of rebutting it. More later, for sure. Down the road, happy Thanksgiving, my friend. Thank you for being part of the Comfortably Zoned team, such as it is. You come back again, I hope.
Sure.
Good. And we're going to play a little music. We're going to have a little Thanksgiving spirit show, so stick. All right. Terrific, Scott. Thanks for being here, and thank you, Tallie, for dropping by. Thanks to the listening audience. I'm going to give you a little Frank to take you out and implore you to keep your dreams wet and your humor dry. Keep your kids and your grandkids too, keep them out of recruiting stations. Military recruiting stations are bad, and keep those same children off the laps of clerics that wear dresses, just to be on the safe side. You never know. A lot of stuff has been in the paper. Who knows? All that might work out for you, might not. I hope it does. So here's a little Frank with a song that I play, and I think of the lovely Tallie. Thanks for dropping by the studio, darling. And here you go. You have been comfortably zoned from Alameda, California.